Let's be real for a second. Have you ever just sat there staring at a completely blank page? The cursor is just blinking at you, mocking you, and you've got an 11:59 p.m. deadline hanging over your head? It's the worst knot in your stomach feeling, right? Well, you are absolutely not alone. There's this huge, pervasive myth out there that truly great writers are just born with it. Like it's some magical innate ability, and they can just sit down and effortlessly dash off a brilliant report perfectly on the very first try. Today, we're taking that myth and completely busting it. We're going to transform how you approach that dreaded blank page forever.
Welcome to our explainer on the writing skill, unlocking the process. We are going to take this incredibly daunting, often messy task of writing, and we're breaking it all down. We're turning it into a highly manageable, structured process, the exact same process the pros use. So it's time to take the mystery out of the blank page and replace it with a solid, actionable method.
All right, here's our game plan for today. We are going to cover, first, the myth of innate talent, then the 3 pillars of writing. After that, we'll get into gathering your information, and finally, crafting your thesis statement. Let's dive right in.
Okay, kicking things off with section 1, the myth of innate talent. So we all kind of love the myth of the born writer, right? The genius who effortlessly sprints right to the finish line. But the reality is actually a messy, highly deliberate marathon. Experienced professionals don't just write, they plan relentlessly. They explore, they draft, they heavily revise, and they completely rethink their work. Your first draft is supposed to be rough. That's the whole point. Good writing isn't magic, it is literally methodology. So, what does that methodology actually look like in practice? Well, competent writers plan, they carefully consider their reader, they investigate, organize, draft, and revise. But here's the real secret to all of this. It is absolutely not a rigid linear sequence. It's more like a dynamic three-way dance of pre-writing, writing, and rewriting. Basically, writing is deeply recursive. You're going to return to your ideas over and over again to clarify or upgrade them. If you suddenly find yourself jumping all the way back to the planning phase while you're right in the middle of drafting, guess what? You haven't failed. Actually, that is exactly how the pros refine their ideas as new insights pop up. Moving right along to section 2, the 3 pillars of writing. Now, these are the absolute core elements you really need to nail down before you even think about typing a single word. Pillar number 1 is your subject. Now, this is way more than just picking a broad topic. It's about rigorous scoping. You gotta ask yourself, why are you writing this, and exactly what does your audience already know about it? Pinning down their baseline familiarity right off the bat instantly dictates how much background context you actually have to build into your piece. Pillar number 2 is your purpose. Think of a clearly stated purpose exactly like a destination on a map. Once you know exactly where you're going, whether that's a quick memo just to persuade someone or a massive report to inform a whole team, you can easily plot the fastest route to get there without aimlessly wandering off topic.
And the third pillar? That's your reader. This is all about total audience empathy. Are they an expert or a general reader? What biases might they be bringing to the table? Look, if you're writing to a skeptical or provoked audience, you're going to need a highly tactful, really evidence-based approach. Honestly, tailoring your text directly to the reader, that is the exact skill that separates merely adequate writers from absolute master communicators. All right, let's jump into section 3, gathering your information. When you start collecting your raw material, you really want to gather heavily. Go big. Collect way more than you think you're going to need. Think about it. If you only dig up 5 facts, you're basically forced to use all 5, even if a couple of them are kind of weak. But if you gather 15, now you've earned the power of choice. You get to cherry pick only the absolute strongest evidence, which literally shuts down reader objections before they even happen. And hey, as you're researching, try out this neat little hack. Color code your notes with highlighters. Now, I don't mean turning the entire page neon yellow. Be strategic. Use one color exclusively for your big ideas, a second color for your hard evidence, and a third for your counterarguments. This kind of visual triage makes it so effortless to track down exactly what you need later on. When it comes to actually generating those ideas, honestly, the medium doesn't matter. Rapid free association, brainstorming, or even just rambling out loud into a voice memo, they all work wonders. But the absolute golden rule here, you must suspend your judgment. Seriously, turn off that harsh internal editor. Do not let quality control bottleneck your creativity. Just generate the mess first and evaluate it all later. Now, to make sense of all that mess you just made, try building an issue tree.
Unlike regular linear notes, an issue tree is a visual hierarchy. It basically maps out your brain right onto the page, letting you instantly see how different arguments relate to one another and weigh their importance. And you get to do all of this before you've even written a single paragraph. It's a total game changer.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 4, crafting your thesis statement.
So, once you've gathered all your intel, you need what we call a working thesis. This is the controlling idea, the beating heart of your entire task. Think of it as your ultimate organizational anchor. Everything you write from this exact point forward literally has to earn its keep by directly supporting this one single statement.
But hey, don't let the word thesis intimidate you. Remember, this is a working statement. It's your starting point. It is not carved in stone. If your research suddenly uncovers a way better angle, pivot, go with it. Your thesis can and absolutely should evolve alongside your writing.
Let's look at how this plays out in practice. Take a thesis like this. The university requires smartboards urgently if education has to be delivered in a modern way. Now, this is fantastic because it clearly plants a flag, hey, we need smartboards. And it logically dictates that the rest of the document is going to deliver the cold hard evidence proving that modern education demands them. It is just a perfect, clear roadmap. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to remember this core loop: rethink, restructure, rewrite. Truly competent writing isn't some magical, rare gift. It's an empowering, iterative process. It's all about scoping out your audience, gathering overwhelming evidence, planting that anchor thesis, and then ruthlessly refining your work. So armed with this entire framework, that blank page, it's no longer a threat. It is literally just a starting